Good morning. Welcome to this morning service. Glad that all of you could join us on this January morning. Thank you for being here. Welcome back to all our Dharma School students. Is this the first time you're back? I guess so. Uh, good to have you back. I was going to say good to see all of you, but I can't see you. So good to have you all of you back. Hopefully. You'll continue to be able to enjoy uh, coming together on Sunday, participating in our Dharma School program, seeing your other classmates, and sharing an appreciation for the teachings of the Buddha. Okay, we'll begin this morning's service. If you'll please join in the reading of Sambujo and Jusei.
Namanda,
Namanda, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Again, good morning. Welcome to this morning service. As we begin, will you please join in the reading of the Golden Chain? I am a link in Amida's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I will keep my link bright and strong. I will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. May every link in Amida's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Welcome back to Dharma School. I hope you had a nice New Year's, and it was Christmas, shortly after Christmas, I guess before Christmas, that we started this break from Dharma School. So it's been a while. It's good to have you all back for our Dharma School service and our classes. This past week was an extraordinary week. I know some of you were aware, some of you were participating in discussions about what took place Wednesday at our nation's capital, how it was overrun, and how our senators and our representatives from states had to take shelter, had to secure themselves, block doorways, and to find safety as a mob took over the Capitol building. It is important for us to think about how our behavior affects the world around us. And it's not just the people who were there at that time. And it's really surprising. People were live streaming their assault on the Capitol. People were taking photos and selfies. It's truly extraordinary that this would be happening in this time. And yet, at the same time, with all that has been going on, it's kind of, I think for some people, it's thought of as, well, sort of matter of fact, but it is an extraordinary event that has taken place in our nation's history. And it should be thought about carefully. As Buddhists, how do we respond to this? How do we think about what has taken place? The kind of tendency, I think, first of all, is to blame others or blame somebody or dismiss what has taken place. I think as Buddhists, we need to seriously look at our way in which we see what is unfolding in our nation. It has been an extraordinary time this past year, culminating in this attack on our capital. Where we go from here will also have an important effect on who we are as people. And not just our nation, but people around the world will look at how we respond to what has taken place. As Buddhists, we are encouraged, to look at ourselves, how we think about the world around us, to understand that we have our prejudices that with which we view the world. It's not to say that because we have these prejudices that we shouldn't engage in conversation. We shouldn't engage in what is taking place in the world around us. There used to be a town commons, and I think many years ago this was an idea that was coming back. It's kind of a common ground in which people of a town would be able to gather together to talk about differences and to talk about what they might be able to do together to uh, have the people of that town be able to live safely and to be able to live together. And people would have disagreements, but it was a place in which those disagreements could be expressed and worked through and looked for places in which common interests could be worked at. As Buddhists, we understand that the cause of our difficulties lie in our own prejudices, our own preferences, our likes and dislikes, what I want and what I don't want. In this time, it is so easy to shut out the thoughts of others. It is easy to become entrenched, lodged in our own thinking, hard to see beyond what the boundaries of my limited view might be like. What Buddhism reminds us is that this is the cause of our difficulties when we cannot acknowledge, when we cannot engage in the possibility of things outside of our view. This is how we get into disagreements. And it's not easy to consider seriously someone's views who might be so different from our own that we would be engaged in conversations that would not lead to a resolution of our differences. We have to talk with each other. We have to have these conversations, not just conversations and then shut out what the person is saying, but listen, hear. Where does this come from? Where is my own anger or disappointment or frustration? Where does that come from? Where does the other person's anger or disappointment result from? And to explore together these differences and to work toward a common good, something that we can all be a part of. In Buddhism, it is important for us to understand the value of all life. The compassion of Amida, compassion of Buddhism extends to all beings, regardless of what they may or may not think or how they may have behaved. It extends to all beings, affirming each of us as we are. I know I'm not free of fault. I am, I can, anyone that knows me for a while knows that I have had my share of misfortune, actions that have that I'm not very that I am embarrassed about. Uh, but we are able to, when we are able to acknowledge, it doesn't free us from that responsibility, but it allows us to perhaps begin to question our own views and how we might be able to find this common ground with others who may not see the world in the same way that I do. The town commons, perhaps it is a time for us to really talk about, to open up conversation, to discuss those things that we disagree with, and find a place not through argument, but to find a place in which we can affirm the lives of those around us. Not simply those who agree with us, but those who disagree with us as well. Throughout this past summer, there have been many protests, many rallies about the injustices, economic and racial injustices. Black Lives Matter matters was a result of a long history of discrimination, injustices that have caused great hardship on people of our community. Not just in terms of what they are able to enjoy, but their lives have been threatened as a result of these inequities. For a long time, pushed out of the opportunities that many of us have been able to enjoy. These are the kinds of questions that we need to be open to work toward, be engaged, be involved in our communities, to help work toward better understanding so that each of us will be able to live our lives in a way that is assures or affirms the integrity of each life. Namo Amida Butsu. When we say Namo Amida Butsu, it is an expression of gratitude and appreciation for the assurance of Amida Buddha that affirms all beings, everyone. Whether you hear of the vow of Amida Buddha or not, it affirms all beings as they are, as we are, for the resolution of difficulties. It doesn't matter where we come from. It doesn't matter what we may or may not have done. That assurance allows us to look more openly at who we are, more openly at our own faults and limitations, softening the boundaries that may separate us from one another. Namo Amida Butsu is an expression of gratitude for that assurance that allows us to see ourselves as we are. It is a very challenging time. Please be safe. I've been told by my family that I'm going out too much. I should be more careful. And I think we get used to being in sheltering in place. And we need to remind ourselves, myself, that it continues to be a very dangerous time in which the virus is surging again. Our hospitals are being overwhelmed, and we should be mindful of the many people who work to try and keep us safe. And we should do what we can to help ourselves, certainly, and the people around us, to reduce the possibility of spreading this terrible disease. Please take care of one another. Be mindful of how our actions affect the world around us. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here for this Dharma School service. As we conclude, will you please join in Gassho and Nembutsu? Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, everyone. Next week is Ho Onko, and we have a special guest speaker, Reverend Kodo Umezu, who was the bishop of the Buddhist Churches of America. He served for 8 years, I believe, as a bishop of the Buddhist Churches of America. He is now retired, enjoying life as a retired Kaikyoshi, and he will join us next weekend, next Sunday, for this very important Ho Onko service. It is the major service of Jodo Shinshu, where we remember the life of Shinna and Shonin. He will speak both at the Dharma School service and at the 1010 service. So please join us for that. And Umezu Sensei will be here in our Hondo. He is asked to speak to you from our Hondo. And so he will be the first person in many months to actually speak from this Hondo, aside from Mikame Sensei and myself. So Umezu Sensei will join us next Sunday at our Hoonko service. Please plan to be a part of this important major service for us in Jodo Shinshu. Again, thank you very much for your participation, presence in this morning service. Thank you, everyone. Be safe. Go to Dharma School. See you later. Bye. Good morning. Ohayo gozaimasu. Begin this morning service with the reading of Sambujo and Sambutsuge. Sambutsuge, as I've said many times, I hope you don't remember so that when I'm mentioning this again, it won't be too redundant, but I've said this before. But Sambutsuge is a part of the larger Pure Land Sutra. Three sutras that are important to us in Jodo Shinshu is the larger Pure Land Sutra, the Meditation Sutra, and the Amida Sutra. The larger Pure Land Sutra is this overarching story that is central to the mythology of Pure Land Buddhism. In this story, the Bodhisattva Dharmakara, Hozo Bosatsu, sets out on a quest to find a means to which everyone might be able to resolve the difficulties that we cause and experience. And Dharmakara meets a teacher, Lokeshvara Raja. And when he meets Lokeshvara Raja for the first time, he praises the virtues of Lokeshvara Raja, and he does so in the form of verse. And that's what this Sambutsuge is about. It is Dharmakara praising Lokeshvara Raja. What happens shortly after, I always say immediately, but I think maybe shortly after this verse by Dharmakara asks Lokeshvara Raja to help him in his quest. And Lokeshvara Raja, after first kind of saying you can do this if you on your own if you work hard enough, but Dharmakara persists and asks again, and Lokeshvara agrees to help Dharmakara in his quest. And this relationship between Dharmakara and Lokeshvara Raja, in a sense, allows Dharmakara to become Amida Buddha. Certainly he does the work, but through Lokeshvara Raja's instructions, Lokeshvara Raja's attention to Dharmakara, Dharmakara is able to fulfill this quest that he had set out upon. That relationship between Lokeshvara Raja and Dharmakara, a relationship that I think represents the importance of the relationships that we share as individuals, that we share with the world around us, whether individuals or the Buddha or ideas, or that our lives are made up of at this intersection, this nexus of relationships that we share with the world around us. And that relationship, I think, between Dharmakara and Lokeshvara Raja represents all of these relationships that we share that causes us to be who we are. We'll begin then this morning's service with Sambujo, followed by the reading of Sambutsuge. Again, good morning. Welcome to this morning's service. This morning for our speaker this morning is Dennis Akizuki. Many of you know Dennis. He has been a long-time member of the Betsing. His family goes back a long time and been a part of this community for generations. Dennis has served also as in leadership capacities at the Bitsing as a president and as a chair of Obon. And he has, for the past couple of years, been a minister's assistant, along with Sumi Tanabe and Michael Jones. The three of them have been rotating through speaking at our Dharma school service and our 1010 service. And this morning, Dennis joins us as our speaker for today's service. So, Dennis, if you could. Okay. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you for the introduction, Rimban. Good morning to you all. Please join me in Gasho. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If one speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows one, as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the wagon. If a man speaks or acts with a good thought, happiness follows him like a shadow that never leaves him. Namo Amitabha. Namo Amitabha. Namo Amitabha. So I had a topic I was going to talk about today until Wednesday. I think we all saw what happened in Washington, D.C. It was so shocking, distressing, and really unbelievable. For just the second time in our history, the Capitol building was stormed and breached. The first time that happened was when the British invaded the Capitol during the War of 1812. But on Wednesday, it was Americans who assaulted the building, not a foreign power. We saw on television, we saw looting, vandalism, and then there was an image that sticks out in my mind, a photo of a Confederate battle flag being carried in the halls of Congress, something that never happened during the Civil War, but was happening and happened here in 2021. So I thought about what I should talk about and how I should address what happened Wednesday. A Buddhist perspective. I looked around for some articles and found a couple by two Buddhist ministers that I'll share with you. One of the other articles I found was published by the Washington Post on how teachers were trying to, quote, explain an unforgettable day in American history, unquote. One of the teachers mentioned in the article basically was explaining how a discussion with the students got so animated in his class that he decided to postpone the next lesson, which turned out to be a lesson on Buddhism. Now I can understand why the teacher made that decision. He didn't want to interfere with the flow of the discussion at hand, but I couldn't help but think that Buddhist teachings can provide an important perspective and a potential path to help us during this turbulent time in our history. As I was thinking about it, a couple of things came to mind, like when I was in Dharma school, like right views, right thoughts. Those are two of the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path is, I get this from the San Mateo Buddhist Church website, is to, quote, transcend the ego, the source of our sufferings. So let's kind of go over the Noble Eightfold Path. I think if we go over them, you could see that if people followed the Noble Eightfold Path, it would certainly have prevented what happened Wednesday. And these are the explanations of each of the 8 that I found on the website of the Makawao Hongaji Mission in Hawaii. Right views. To keep ourselves free from prejudice, superstition, and delusion, and to see aright the true nature of life. Right thoughts. To turn away from the evils of this world and to direct our minds towards righteousness. Right speech. To refrain from pointless and harmful talk, to speak kindly and courteously to all. Right conduct. To see that our deeds are peaceful, benevolent, compassionate, and pure. To live the teaching of the Buddha daily. Right livelihood. To earn our living in such a way as to entail no evil consequence. Right effort. To direct our efforts incessantly to the overcoming of ignorance and selfish desires. Right mindfulness. To cherish good and pure thoughts, for all that we say and do arise from our thoughts. Right meditation. To concentrate our will on the Buddha, his life, and his teaching. So as you can see, I think if we could apply many, almost all of the 8 to try to understand and put in perspective and learn, teach what we can do to avoid the kind of rioting and looting in the Capitol building we saw Wednesday. I think if we did try to apply them, I don't think we would have saw the hatred, destruction, and terror we saw Wednesday. So one of the articles that I found, or thoughts or talks that I found written by a Buddhist minister, was written by Reverend Blaine Higa of the Konohongaji Buddhist Temple. He wrote his thoughts in an essay he called "The Power of Words," and he has a blog on the that is called "Hearing the Light" blog. And he wrote, quote, "A leader's words and actions matter. The president and others have failed in their oaths to safeguard our democracy and to protect the American people." Now, the passage I recited at the beginning of the talk is a little longer version of what Reverend Higa included in his essay. It is attributed to Shakyamuni Buddha, and I'll repeat the portion he used. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If one speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows one, as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the wagon. Reverend Higa went on to say, "We have real problems that need to be addressed. We have the difficult task of mending ourselves, our communities, and our nation. This process will be uncomfortable and sometimes painful, but if we move forward together with love, we can and will heal. Let us cease hatred through love, as the Buddha taught. We can disagree without hate, vitriol, and violence. We must learn to live together for the sake of our collective future. Our differences can be resolved through respectful dialogue based on truth and fact." And by the way, Reverend Higa is scheduled to be our guest speaker for our Ohigan service on March 21st. And you've heard even in our Sangha a couple of Dharma talks, kind of more eloquently than I could say, that talks about resolving difficulties peacefully. For those of you missed it, Rinban Sakamoto addressed that in the Dharma School service today. And if you missed that, you can go a little bit later and go watch that in his Dharma talk. And Michael Jones, another one of our minister's assistants, also eloquently spoke about peacefully resolving our differences in his Dharma talk on December 20th. If you haven't viewed the video of that talk, you can find it on the Betsuin's YouTube channel. Go on YouTube, look for S.J. Betsuin. You'll find all the videos. You can find the December 20th service. Michael spoke during the 10:10 service, so you'll have to kind of scroll through a little bit to get to his talk. The second article or kind of address that I saw written by a Buddhist minister was one that was written the day after the riot by Reverend Eric Matsumoto, Bishop of the Honpa Hongoji Mission of Hawaii. He used a couple of sayings to kind of illustrate his thoughts on what happened. Quote, "Whatever words we utter should be chosen with care, for people will hear them and be influenced by them for good or ill. If our minds are filled with empathy and compassion, they will be resistant to the negative words we hear. We must not let wild words pass our lips, lest they arouse feelings of anger and hatred. The words we speak should always be words of empathy and wisdom." He went on to also quote, the duty of a leader is to protect the people. Indeed, a leader's governance is not perfect until the people abide in peace. And Reverend Matsumoto says, unfortunately, that cultivation of peace has not happened, at least not recently. He concludes by saying, we affirm a commitment to sharing the Buddhist teachings so that all beings may enjoy lives of harmony, peace, and gratitude. We uphold the democratic values of our nation and how our differences can be resolved through respectful dialogue. Let us all be mindful of our thoughts, words, and actions, and how they can affect not only our lives, but the lives of others. I encourage us all to take heart the famous saying in the Dhammapada that hatred is not overcome by hatred. Hatred is overcome by love. This is an ancient law. The violence and hatred we saw on January 6th in Washington shows us that the teachings of the Buddha and of Shinran have never been more critical in our lives and those of others in our country and around the world. I think the teachings of the Buddha and of Shinran can do much good through, not for ourselves, but for everyone. So I think we should really kind of commit ourselves to following and sharing our Jodo Shinshu teachings. Please join me in Gassho. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If one speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows one, as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the wagon. If a man speaks or acts with a good thought, happiness follows him like a shadow that never leaves him. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Dennis. Much to think about, not just in terms of our involvement in our temple, but how our understanding of the teachings of the Buddha can be a source of understanding what goes on in the world around us. And it is a time in which the Dharma can truly be helpful as we try to make sense of and move forward in these very extraordinary times. Again, thank you very much for your Dharma message this morning. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. Thank you for your presence. These weeks that we have been in shelter in place have been a time in which we've been separated, but at the same time, hopefully, we've been able to remind ourselves of how deeply connected we are to the world around us, even though it is through the internet that we might be making these connections, that we are indeed a part of the world around us, and our actions and our thoughts and our words can have an effect on the world around us. Thank you for joining us in this morning's service. Next week, as was mentioned earlier, is our Ho'onko service. It is the most important service that we observe in Jodo Shinshu. It is the memorial service for Shinran Shonin. Both the Dharma school and the Tenten service, a speaker for this service will be Reverend Kodo Umezu, who has retired from his work as a kaikyoshi, but he continues to serve the Jodo Shinshu. He is the president of Jodo Shinshu International Office here in the BCA. The Jodo Shinshu International Office is made up of the bishops from the 5 international districts, and they gather together with representatives from the Honnanji to discuss how what we might be able to do, not only in these times, but as we continue to move into our future, what we might be able to do to share the teachings of the Buddha and Shinran's understanding and appreciation of the Nembutsu. Umezu Sensei, as president of the BCA Jodo Shinshu International Center, will join us next week for our Ho'onko service. Please plan to join us at that time. And as Dennis mentioned, these Dharma School and Tenten services are viewable on YouTube at our S.J. Betsing YouTube channel. So please, if you missed any of the previous services or would like to view again these services, please go to our YouTube channel. Again, thank you very much. Thank you, Dennis Akizuki, for your wonderful Dharma message. Thank you, everybody. Please, as we conclude, join in Gassho and Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.